Welcome, welcome, welcome to AI Powered Caregiving, a new weekly podcast sharing real stories and challenges from the front lines of age tech innovation. I'm Ashanya Antapur, your intrepid host from Zemplee, where we provide AI-powered remote monitoring to help caregivers support older adults with confidence, dignity, and ease. This is one of our first episodes, and we want to start with one of the biggest challenges in the senior care industry, persistent across the years. How do you provide exceptional care with limited resources on a limited budget, managing staffing needs, while honoring the independence and humanity of older adults? And where does AI actually fit into that real-world puzzle? My guest today is the illustrious Shanna Eckberg, NHA, MHA, LALD. She is a senior services consultant and she owns a virtual home care agency, Syncara. She's also a mother, wife, educator. Folks, she's doing it all, and she's a lifelong learner. Thanks for joining us here today, Shanna.
Hi, thank you so much, Ashani. I appreciate it.
My first question will be just to let folks know, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from snowy, chilly Minnesota, so the Midwest.
Nice, Minnesota, snowy. I'm myself located in California, so
Hmm,
I'm getting to enjoy a little bit of sunlight today.
awesome.
Yes. So my first question is, I'm very curious, and I'm sure lots of folks out there as well are curious about what exactly is a virtual home care agency. I think people are very familiar with the traditional models of a senior living facility, for example, or assisted living, where you kind of move to a new place and you're in this almost a dorm-like style living environment. Could be 200 beds, could be 10 beds. But what exactly is a virtual home care agency?
Sure. So I had come up with the term as I myself and a couple of other team members were working on a senior living without walls concept. And as we were trying to explain what we were trying to achieve, we needed a softer term than remote patient monitoring in your home. And so that's why we decided on virtual home care. So, what virtual home care does is utilizes technology available to place in people's homes to support them to age and live the way they choose. So it could be medication management, it could be remote patient monitoring tools like Zemplee is with the AI backbone to it. All of those features in their home to help them live the way that they want to live.
I love that. I think it's a fascinating business concept, a fascinating advancement in terms of how people are going to age in this country. And it's just very brave of you to go out and start your own business in this space. And I'm really excited for your success to come. Can you talk a little bit about what motivated you to kind of branch out and start your own business, and particularly in this space?
Sure. Yeah. It is hard. However, when St. John's, where I was the CEO and administrator, when we were awarded a large grant from the Leading Age Minnesota Foundation, the Connected Communities grant, one thing that we were challenged with was how can we create a collaborative network of resources to keep people in their homes? Because in rural
Mm,
areas in Minnesota and throughout the country, there are a lot of barriers such as transportation, access to care, access to mental health, those types of things. And it really hit my passion where it was like I couldn't do a great job at St. John's and I couldn't do a great job on the grant without giving up one. And so I decided to make the change and jump in with this grant opportunity and then also be able to open my own agency where I could help others. And so we could just do more. So that's why.
just do more. I think that's a beautiful concept. And yeah, I think as women leaders in business, we sometimes find ourselves at this crossroads of we're in this established environment, but you're so creative and you want to express that and build a kind of a new concept and do more to really help people.
Hmm.
I think that really comes through in the idea of this virtual home care agency. How has the journey been for the last a couple months or to a year? How's the journey been starting your own business?
Um, Interesting, fun, scary, challenging. Feel like quitting a lot, but then you're like, you get these stories or someone saying, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." I'm like, oh, "Thank you. I needed that for to like keep me moving forward." So it's been all of those things. But the one thing I think that stands out is the ability to make the decision, try it. If it fails or you flop, that's okay. Keep going. And the amazing people and that are out there, like supporting you and doing similar things has been awesome.
That's amazing. That's good to hear and very encouraging for anybody out there who wants to start their own business, I think. I want to dive a little bit into some of the real life challenges of working in the space, in the senior care space, whether it's on property, on prem, or just in the virtual space. But do you have any thoughts as to what are some of the biggest day-to-day challenges just in delivering care for your patients or your clients? And I'm curious, particularly in the virtual setting, how that plays out versus I know you have this experience and background in sort of an on-prem setting as well.
Right, right. And that's a really good question and kind of perplexed me for a little bit. And then I was thinking about some of my just some of my former team members and some of the partners that are out there is like, what would they say too? Because I think that's really
Mm,
important. So I think what stands out is providing quality care with limited funding, trying to do what you know is the right thing to do with rigid or limiting laws and being able to pivot or change quickly. Sometimes with those laws and regulations, we have to jump through a lot of hoops to do what we know we need to do. And so that can delay service or care. And some people just get burned out. They don't want to keep fighting the good fight.
how do you keep up with the laws changing, especially in just such a government where there's so much turnover, both federally and then even locally? Are there any particular things you found helpful to keep up, or did you have like staff briefings that helped you, or particular websites?
Sure. I think really connecting with your resources, whether you're a part of not-for-profit groups, agencies, associations, look to your fellow executive directors, business owners, those types of things, because a lot of the time those things that apply to them apply to you, and you can learn from each other. And then also staying connected virtually now with regulatory changes. In the state of Minnesota, the Department of Health actually has like a YouTube channel, which is helpful. Signing up for webinars, even if you can't be there right away, getting those links later are really helpful. But yes, that's how I recommend people stay connected, stay abreast of what's going on. And I've found a lot of resources on LinkedIn as I've been able to expand my network. It's nice to, again, just have more resources that know what's going on and are sharing that valuable information.
Yeah, none of us is operating in a bubble. I think your network can be one of the most key sources of information to rely
Hmm.
on and ask for help and things like that.
Yeah,
That's great. Do you feel like there is a strong sense of network among the executive directors in the senior care space?
I do. I do think that, and even maybe even on a smaller scale, is maybe in a certain market, you might have area groups of administrators, directors of nursing that get together to talk, especially those mentoring brand new teams coming on board. So I think that, yes, I think it can be both statewide, but then I also think there's these little niches that being making sure you get to be a part of can really help you. They can help be mentors for you if you're brand new, or just to like say, hey, does anybody have a policy for this? That's super helpful. So, yes, I do believe that's available.
Gotcha. So reach out locally and you'll probably stumble across some kind of group, like you said, and they can you can join the group, get taken under their wings. If you're learning, if you're coming up in the business, even looking for opportunities of mentorship is really helpful within these kinds of groups.
Yes.
That's wonderful. I want to circle back a little bit to, you mentioned something, um, either you used the word burnout or approached the concept of burnout. Um, do you see burnout happening particularly within a certain, within the caregiver population, or are you seeing it kind of widespread in this section of industry? Like, does it happen from top to bottom, or is it within a particular group, like the people on the ground?
Yeah. I think that specifically to long term care, staffing shortages or burnout can definitely impact the quality of care. I think that now that I've stepped a little bit outside that, I'm also seeing it with caregivers, family caregivers, or just friends that are caregiving for their friends. Um,
Yeah,
so I found that very interesting that there are some similarities there where everybody wants to help each other. But man, it gets to be very, very hard. So that's a couple of the ways I'm seeing it specific to those two groups. I think that some of it in the long term care space is, again, those regulations and paperwork. It's hard work, to be specifically a certified nursing assistant or a nurse working on the floor or even maintenance. Like, it's hard work. And then you think about a caregiver, a family member, caring for somebody who has maybe dementia, that they live in their home and they're always kind of walking on eggshells to make sure that their loved one is okay, not, you know, leaving through the front door when they're sleeping or that kind of thing.
right.
So while there's huge differences, there's so much of that similarity too, I've seen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of, I think anyone in a caregiving situation, whether it's mainly administrative or if it's real delivering on the ground care, it's going to have an impact. Um, and we're humans. We're kind of created to care. Like, it's very internal to us, and I think we're empathetic. And then when you work in this environment, that empathy is being pulled out of you every hour, every day. Can definitely be exhausting. Definitely. How do you think technology um, or modern innovations can help with that sort of burnout, whether it's on the emotional side or the physical labor side or even the task side of things?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that sticks out to me is when we've been providing some solutions in the home with Zemplee. We specifically in our home care agencies we're using Zemplee. Is it allows that ability to check in, whether it's via your Alexa show or if maybe the individual's uncomfortable, it's a weekly phone call. And even just being that person that caregiver of another person can just talk to, because they can't talk to their kids, they can't talk to anyone else about it, has been really amazing to be able to offer that help that way. Um, and then I think having that feeling that they're being supported, but not somebody watching them. So again, we can do that with Zemplee and the tech that the motion sensing gives us, and there's somebody there helping them. It's been pretty cool.
Right, right. So um, I'll just clarify. Do you feel like technology, Zemply, other, and anything else, do you think is opening the doors for sort of aging with dignity?
Of course. I mean, how can we help people stay in their current living environment with tools, but that doesn't really invade privacy or anything like that? I think of course, it will help support that.
I'm curious also about the concept of virtually connecting with patients, clients, residents, and bringing it back to the idea of staffing burnout. I don't think there's any studies, and it's such a new concept, but I wonder if being able to pick up the phone, like you said, work from your desk or work on the go and pick up the phone and call someone and also have some information about them is a little bit less taxing than being there with them in person, running around, or even having to drive over to check up on things. Just from a time standpoint, I can see it saving time for whoever is doing that caregiving. I can see it keeping them connected in more ways, right? Through distance. They don't have to be in the same town necessarily. They don't have to be driving over all the time to get a nice picture of that person's state of the day, the resident's state, the client's state of the day. Do you think that is going to have any impact on sort of the concept of burnout in the caregiving capacity or caregiving roles?
I do. I I think people just really need to be uh, have it shared with them. Like, here's what you can trust. Here's how it does work. Here's some great stories. I think having that is really going to be helpful. Because of course we can gather the data, but experiencing it with someone who's done it is super helpful. Or to have those testimonials from the clients on how it does help. It helped me feel a little bit better, or it helped my daughter feel so much better that it's not just her helping me. There's a team of people helping her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not on one person. Often it falls onto, a younger woman to be the caregiver of these of our aging population, and I think I'm really passionate about transforming that cycle as well, because it's not on one person. It should be a community effort, and that's what I love about what you're doing with your project. It literally has community in the name, and I always think about human in terms of human evolution. We used to live in our small villages, and you had a group of people to support you as you got older, or even if you were young, you had a group of people looking out. It wasn't like one nuclear family. Do you think technology is going to be impacting these nuclear families? We'll call them like the sandwich generation folks, and talking like Gen X, millennials. Do you think technology is going to really help them as they enter the caregiving space in the next few years?
I do see it that way, because there aren't as many caregivers out there for the aging population that need that support. So, one, I think it's one of our only other options, but two, it like we can make it work. And so, yeah, I really do. I think it's going to help. I think it's just getting over that barrier of like, here's how it works, and it's not scary. It doesn't have to be scary to do it.
In your experience, who finds it scarier? Is it the caregivers, the sandwich generation, or is it the patients themselves that are more hesitant, let's say, about technology coming into their lives, into their homes?
I'd say it would probably be more the client or the individual for sure, because it's a bit unknown. How does this work? Is it listening to me? I think sometimes in the media we tend to get told that everybody's watching you all the time. Um, so that's hard to get through. So sometimes it does take a trusted individual of that person to say, "Hey, let's give this a shot," or if you don't like it, we can stop. Um, so yeah, I would say that the caregivers seem to be much more open to resources.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. It is interesting. I think it's very personal. It just depends on everybody's sort of background exposure to technology and then their own concerns about data privacy, right?
Yeah,
For example, like I have friends that are super private, and they're like, because they know a lot about how our data is collected, and they're what am I, Gen Z or Gen X or something? Not Gen X. But so even they are like already concerned about data privacy. And I wonder what it'll be like for them as they age, and if they'll still have that concern, or if they'll be willing to like overlook that in in the context that they need care, and that maybe everyone can't afford a private caregiver 24/7, or don't want to be a constant quote unquote burden to your son or daughter-in-law, son-in-law. So it'll be interesting to see how data privacy issues around health data, around technology continue to progress. I think in this case, though, it's really like an only time will tell
Hmm.
sort of a thing. And
Yeah.
I do hope there's more regulation about data privacy that gets put into place um, in our country. Going back to a little bit about, we'll flip a little into kind of the care system of America abroad. I mentioned I think there should be a lot of data privacy laws, regulations that are passed. But if you could redesign one part of um, the care ecosystem in our country, what would it be and why? And I think your experience kind of across the spectrum is really valuable. You've seen it at a residential facility level, and now you're seeing it through being a business owner in a virtual setting, this really new, exciting format of senior care. So, if there was one thing you could redesign, or you think our countries, our systems need to sort of change, or even our thinking, our society, what would that be?
Mm. That was so hard when I was thinking about it because I was like, I could probably give you 50 things, but then I'm like, but is that really logical? So
So, you're saying a lot of change, a lot of change has to happen.
I know, well, so I think, not I think, I know that what I would push for is for people to have access to care and the services that they need timely. So sometimes, especially in rural
Mm.
markets, you are waiting a long period of time to receive care. And it's most likely due to that there simply aren't enough docs or what have you. And my reason is that in both senior living and from a home care perspective is that we run into a lot of individuals who can't afford the care but really need the care. So it's like, how can we get these services? You know, so many people want to help, and but it's like it just seems like there's quite a few barriers, and you know that could be funding or what have you. But yeah, just can't they just get things faster when they need it?
Yeah, yeah. You'd think in such an advanced world that we're living in, that some of these problems, distribution, funding, and general healthcare, could be a little faster. I agree. I agree. Okay, so I love that answer. If you could wave your magic wand, you'd want sort of the distribution of care and the access to care to be faster. It's beautiful.
Mhm. Yes. So I also added under the other one too is for everybody to have choice in their healthcare.
Hmm. What exactly do you mean by choice, as in choice of doctor or sort of choice of location?
I think what I specifically thought about is choices in healthcare with no barriers.
Mm.
So whether it's funding, transportation, lack of providers, again, that's the magic wand where like everything would just be like boom, done. But
Yeah.
um so yeah, it was so hard for me to pick one. Uh but
I think I understand why. It's because it is it's a network.
mhm, yeah.
Care isn't just, oh, I have choice in this one area. You need to have it everywhere, like you said. What about choice of meals?
What do you mean?
That's something I always wondered about was I know food and scent are so tied to memory. And as we do experience a lot more in this country and in other countries, but especially here, of like cognitive decline, memory loss later in life. Oh, I always wonder, like, oh, does the food that someone's eating or have any impact on that? I know that people do lose sort of choice or access to food as they get older or go into certain senior living situations. Um, That's more of a fun question. Like, do you think
Sure.
choice of food will be impactful as well?
It is. I mean, food is huge for everybody. Um, and I think, at least what I've seen and what I've worked in for a long time, is that it's one of the most important areas to make sure that there's still choice, regardless of your ability. And I think that's super important. It might have to be laid out differently on the plate, depending on your need, your diagnoses, but still offering this or this,
Mm,
still some type of choice. And I think that our senior living organizations do good at that. I really do. I grew up in dining services, so um, it's really important.
okay. Yeah, yeah. I love food, and I think what I've noticed too, right, is just how connected to memory it is. And so I think about aging and not being able to cook for myself, and then being at the quote unquote mercy of someone else cooking for me. So yes, that's food is really important. I think choice of location of where to grow older is also really important. What do you think, Shauna? As in, you don't really want to be moving across the country, relocating when you're mid 70s, 80s. I know people do it. Some people, that's their pick. You're an adventure and they
Hmm.
pick to do
Yeah.
that. But having the freedom of choice of location seems like it'd be really important in that phase of life.
Hmm. It is. It really is. I mean, some individuals, because of maybe the service they need, there isn't a ton of choice. But that's where I think staff in long term care organizations do amazing, even if it's, do you want this in your room or this in your room? Um,
Mm,
I still think it's really important to offer that. Uh, but then as far as homes, yeah, it's very important if somebody says, hey, I want to try to stay in my home, it's how can we help do that?
I like what you're saying that offering choices kind of relates back to the empathy. It's a way, it could be small, the act could be small, but it still matters. It matters to that person and matters on both sides, both parties as well.
Agreed.
It's a great tip. Okay, Shauna, I've thank you so much. I've got a few final wrap-up questions, a
Awesome.
little more personal and fun in nature.
Perfect. Hit me
Um,
with it.
cool. How would you describe your caregiving capacity? As in, are you currently a caregiver for someone older, for someone younger? And what has that taught you about caregiving and about life?
Sure. So I would say that personally, my son is autistic and he is 13. So definitely a caregiver in my own right. Of course, it's not like probably everybody's own caregiving journey is different. So I'm not saying I just
Mm,
have an appreciation, I think, for the work that people in general do when they are a caregiver. So that's my experience. I was never a CNA or a nurse or anything like that, um, but definitely always want to serve and make sure people are taken care of.
oh my gosh, you sound like an amazing mom.
Well, thank you.
What are two or three books that you find yourself recommending most to other people?
Yeah, I should have been prepared for that one. Um, there is a book by Herb Baum, I think he was like the president of the Dial Corporation, that I cannot think of right now, but it is a great read. And it talks a lot about leadership and setting the tone for a culture. And I appreciate that work culture is so important.
That's a great one. Yeah, great
Yeah,
tip.
and then oh, they're probably just like nerdy books or something. I mean, I just really like I love things about leadership and how just to continue to do better for the people that you work with. So, I do like those little short Harvard I can't think of what they are, Harvard Business Journals or whatever, where
Okay, yeah, yeah.
short 100 pagers, where it really just talks about like here's how you can just do better as a leader and serve and help others. So those just always just kind of stick with me. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, amazing.
What about you?
Um, what what about me? Oh, I should have been prepared too. No, I'm very interested. I always read multiple books at once. That just works for me. I'd like to have like a fiction, something philosophical, and then something kind of educational going. So 3 to 5 books at once. Right now, I'm reading one on sort of organization and management, and it's called The Checklist Manifesto, which is a great book about when you are someone who wears lots of hats in your role, as both of us are, how to keep everything organized, keep your timelines going, and um, GSD, as I like to say, or get shit done. So that's a good one. And then I've been reading this one called A Snake Falls to Earth in the fiction category, which is really interesting. And it's about kind of the Apache culture mythology, but in a modern day setting. So there's a modern day girl who is interacting with one of the shapeshifters from Apache mythology. So I'm getting to learn a lot about that culture as well. Yep, those are 2 books that I would recommend. Um, I think the Checklist Manifesto is very, very interesting for product managers, executives, again, anyone who just has a lot to do on their to-do list, personally, professionally, whatever, even in your personal life, it works. And then, yeah, got to keep life fun, have some fiction lying around, and take some time.
Yeah. Awesome.
My
Thank you.
next one is, yeah, you're welcome, Shauna. I should have been more prepared too. Yeah, I should be prepared to answer. My next question is, what's your, maybe a bit easier, what's your favorite recent movie or TV show?
Well, I have a favorite TV show that I most of the time just have playing on loop. Um, and it's the Golden Girls.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh, amazing.
I know.
That makes a lot of sense.
I know. I love it. I love walking down the hall in a senior living organization and listening to who's watching the Golden Girls because they're my people. Then. So yeah, so I my whole family jokes about it, and if somebody's sitting like that's newer to the house, like if they're visiting, I'm like, "Oh, did you say you wanted to watch the Golden Girls with me? I'd love to turn it on for you." There you go.
Wow, that's a great one. That's it makes perfect sense given that you're in the senior care space. Do you have a favorite Golden Girl?
I don't
Shall I
know.
ask? Should
I
I
just I
dare?
struggle. So, but I would probably say Sophia, which is she's the mom, and she's just great. Like she just says it the way it is, and I appreciate that.
Yes, she does. She nothing, no, nothing held back. No inhibitions. That's great. And couple final questions. Where can folks find you? LinkedIn, social media, bit websites, things like that.
Yes.
Where can folks find you?
Yes, thank you. On LinkedIn, I think you're going to post it in the notes, maybe. And then my personal business, Syncara, has a website that I think you're going to post in the notes. So check those out.
Great. Yep, those links will definitely be in the show notes. If you're interested in reaching out, please do. I'm sure Shauna would love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Shauna, thank you again for sharing your insights with us today. It was really lovely to have you on our podcast and just get to know you a bit more. Your approach to caregiving, to senior care, is so admirable and wonderfully innovative. And we are very excited to be working with you and to continue on your journey, being a business owner and really doing great work for the senior care community.
Thank you. That's
So,
so nice. I appreciate the kind
okay,
words.
you're very welcome. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
And just some follow up is to check out our show notes, which will be all linked below wherever this podcast is posted across all podcasting platforms. And in it, we'll have links to Shauna's LinkedIn, to Syncara's webpage, also some actionable tools and tips that you can use today to support dignity and care and resources that families can also share as well. We'll also be linking to our 2025 Senior Care Workforce Report, which is full of eye-opening trends about burnout prevention strategies for care teams. I'm Ashanya Antapur with Zemplee. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week on our next podcast. Thank you.